My wife wants to give up our unloved children for adoption. I'm using a throwaway because I'm pretty active in other subs and want to avoid this associated with my main account. My wife and I have been together since college and got married a little while after she graduated. When we first got together, she told me she didn't like kids, and while I was a little disappointed, I didn't care too much about it. I didn't feel very strongly about it either way. We were very in love, and things were perfect for a while. Her birth control failed 6 years ago, and I told her that I would support whatever choice she made. She scheduled an abortion but backed out the day before, and we became loving and enthusiastic parents. Later on down the road, she decided she wanted another child. So we had our second daughter. They are 5 and 3 years old and perfect. They are well behaved and ahead of the curve for kids their age. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that my wife is a sachim. My job is very demanding, and I am out of town for week-long stretches once a month and then 6 the rest of the month. I've had this schedule since we were married. I make good money in the low 6 figures, and we've never had any kind of financial struggles. I've known something was up with my wife for the past few months. She is the primary caretaker of our daughters, but recently, she's been entirely hands-off when I'm at home. I don't mind spending the extra time with my daughters caring for them, but it's more than that. She will completely ignore them while I'm around. If they ask her for anything, she tells them, "Go ask Daddy," and will go into our bedroom and lock the door to escape. I've been asking her if she's all right, and she insisted everything was fine until last night. After we put the kids to bed, she approached me and sat me at the table. She started talking about fun things we had done right after we got married. What a great adventure everything had been. Just generally reminiscing. She was sweet, funny, and loving, and my guard was down. She said, "We could do anything before we had the girls. I wish we could go back to that." I asked her what she meant. After much prodding, she admitted that she regretted having kids. I said there were times when I felt overwhelmed too, but I would always love our daughters. She got quiet. She mumbled something, and I asked her to repeat it. She yelled, "I don't love them," and then started sobbing. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. She composed herself and then started talking again. She said she had been looking into adoption agencies and foster care. She had contacted one agency already. She was making plans to give away my children. I continued to listen, too dumbfounded to say a word, as she babbled on about how amazing it would be to have our lives back and how great our relationship would be when we no longer have kids. I didn't know what to do. I let her talk herself out, and when she went to bed, I went and got my babies, packed some things, and drove to my mother's house. I called in sick to work today. I told them I'd probably be out the rest of the week. I have a ton of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from my wife. I haven't looked at any of them. I've spent the day talking to my mom about things and keeping the girls occupied. My mom doesn't know what to do either. I'm thinking I have a couple of options. Start calling lawyers or start calling mental health professionals. Maybe both. I don't know if she's having some kind of psychotic delusion or if she's just that awful of a person. I don't want to go back home to her now, ever. I think divorce is the best choice, but I can't take care of my kids on my own. What should my next move be? Should I try to call my wife? TL.dr. Wife went off the deep end, tells me she regrets having our daughters, 3 and 5, and wants to give them up for adoption so we can go back to our old life. I do not know how to proceed in any regard. Please help me figure out how to handle this. Edit. Additional info. She's not at home with them all the time. They go to pre-K 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. My mom takes them pretty much every other weekend. She gets a lot of time to herself, even though it could be more, and on nights when I'm home, she goes out with her friends often, and lately, when I'm home, she doesn't see the kids at all. It's still possible that she's overwhelmed, but she's not the isolated, barefoot and pregnant, chained to the stove woman you're picturing here. We've both always been pretty low libido. I would say we have sex once a week, and we try to have a date night every other week, leaving the girls with my mother. We are very affectionate towards one another. She graduated with an art degree. When we first got married, she was working as a teacher. She taught English and art in a local high school. She hated it and quit when she was pregnant with our first. She has a studio in our house, basically an extra bedroom with all her art stuff that the kids aren't allowed in, and she paints when the kids are out of the house. She feels like her degree is useless, but she told me she wasn't interested in returning to school. We used to pay for a weekly maid service, but my wife decided she didn't want to spare the expense. I'm just looking for input right now." Her response to this situation was completely out of line and nearly unbelievable. I'm not sure I want to continue a relationship with someone who considers giving away her kids before even asking for help. She has consistently denied that anything was wrong and put up a front to make me think she wasn't struggling. Additional info from OOP. It's not like I forced her to have kids. She chose not to have an abortion, and she decided to have a second child. She approached me about it. She was so happy when I said yes, let's do it. She never asked for help. She didn't let on that things weren't perfect until the last few months when I repeatedly asked her if things were okay. She bottled up her feelings until she was ready to give up our kids and was making real plans about it behind my back. Everybody's acting like I'm the bad guy here for working long hours, but it's not that simple. Whatever direction things take, I absolutely will be hiring a nanny. First update, 2 days later. Here's the OP. The doctor is that my wife, a sachem with plenty of outlets and time away from the kids, told me she didn't love our daughters, and casually mentioned that she was looking to adopt them out so we could play newlyweds again. After my wife went to bed, I was blown away and took my daughters to safety at my mother's house. I second-guessed myself a little after the initial responses I was getting from my first post. I didn't expect anybody to side with my wife. I should have given more information from the start, but I only realized some of that stuff would be relevant. I thought that from the fact that she was trying to adopt our kids without my knowledge, people would recognize that the issue was with her. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect by any means, but I took a lot of unwarranted criticism. Anyway, after I elaborated on our situation a little more, I got some helpful advice and support. Thank you to everyone who commented or sent me a private message. I took a lot of the advice to heart. This update is going to be extended. A lot of really crazy shit has happened. I'm finding a live-in nanny now, and I appreciate everyone who suggested it. Yesterday, I contacted a lawyer for advice, and then I bit the bullet and called my wife. One of my close friends lives a few houses down, so I explained the situation and had him on standby. I left my daughters with my mom and came back to the house to meet with her. She was furious. The first words out of her mouth were, "Where the fuck have you been, you piece of shit?" When I got to the house, she berated me for leaving without saying a word to her or answering the phone. She accused me of cheating on her, called me a pig and an asshole, and ranted for a good 15 minutes straight. She didn't say a word about the kids. They didn't ask me where they were or if I had taken them. It's like she had forgotten they existed. I cut her off, told her where I had been, and that I had taken the girls to my mother's house. She seemed caught off guard. She asked me why. I explained to her that the way she had talked about adopting them out was not acceptable, and since she didn't care about them, I didn't think they were safe around her. She blinked and said, word for word, "Wait, you want to keep them? Don't you love me?" I lost it. I'm not proud of it, but I couldn't hold it together, Reddit. It devolved into a screaming fight with me, telling her she was fucking insane, and her yelling that I didn't love her. I went through the house and packed up all my valuables and personal documents, with her screaming her head off at me the whole time. My friend came in to try and calm her down, but she threw a plate at him and told him to get the fuck out. At this point, I called the cops. She dug her hole deeper by punching one of the cops and then biting the other once she was cuffed. I am now 100% certain that she's having some kind of psychotic break. She will be evaluated soon, but I'm going through with the divorce either way. I doubt I'll have any trouble getting full custody, especially with that call to the adoption agency on her phone records. After my wife was arrested, I cleaned the house and brought my daughters back home. They haven't asked where mommy is yet, but I don't know what to tell them when they do. I'm looking into taking a lower responsibility role at work, at least to the point where I'm away for a whole week. I will still be heavily reliant on a nanny, but I can't stand the thought of my daughters not having a parent to put them to bed every night. TL Dar. Got a lawyer. I met with my wife. She thought I had cheated on her and didn't even realize the girls weren't home. When I told her I wasn't okay with adopting our daughters, she accused me of not loving her and then assaulted my friend when he came to help smooth things over. I called the cops. She got arrested, sucker punched one cop, and bit another. I am divorcing her, seeking full custody, and dialing back my work schedule. Edit. Growing up, my father was schizophrenic. I'm not interested in putting my daughters through what I went through. Even if she gets treatment, it will be a constant worry for me. If she had cancer or some other illness, it wouldn't affect her love for our daughters. I wouldn't have to worry that she would murder them, abandon them, or hurt them when I wasn't around. That's the difference. Edit 2. I called my mom, and she said she told my daughters that their mommy had to go on a trip for a little while. That's why they have yet to ask about her so far. Final update, 73 days later. The previous post, TL.R, met with my wife. I didn't even realize the girls weren't home. She accused me of not loving her and then assaulted my friend. I called the cops, she got arrested. Sucker punched one cop and bit another. It's been a good while since my last update, but things are progressing, so I figured I'd post something. My wife has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She is undergoing extensive therapy and trying to work out her legal issues. I'm still not sure what direction that is going to take. My wife's parents have been helping her with legal arrangements as she refuses to benefit from me and doesn't even want to use my insurance to help with her medical bills. She had to anyway, and I've been sending her parents money to help pay what's left over. We mutually decided to go ahead with the divorce. She didn't want custody of our daughters or even visitation. I begged her to attend their birthdays and holidays, but she said no. I'm hoping that it's a symptom of her illness, and that once she progresses through her treatment enough, she will change her mind, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I found a fabulous au pair who is fantastic with my daughters. According to her, they're very self-sufficient and don't need much help keeping themselves entertained. I suspect my wife ignored the girls even when I wasn't around. They've constantly asked me when mommy is coming back, and I don't know what to tell them. I have to try hard not to cry in front of them because I don't want them to worry about me. We've been going to family therapy together, but still haven't found a way to explain that mommy might never come back, or she may show back up and not be pleasant, or she may show back up and be her old self again. My friend, the one she threw a plate at, and his wife and kids have been hanging out at my place to keep us all company. He's been a godsend throughout this whole experience. He decided not to press charges against my wife for the plate thing. This will probably be my last update. The feedback I've gotten from you guys has helped to ground me during these events. Even just getting validation that I'm not crazy helped. Thanks for everything, Reddit. TL.dr. The wife is sorting out her legal issues by choice. It turns out she has bipolar disorder, but after medication and therapy, she still doesn't want anything to do with our girls. I don't know how to explain things to them even in treatment, but my friend and his family have been there for us during this challenging time. That's it with the story. If you want to hear more, click the suggested video. It would mean a lot if you subscribe. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers this month. Thanks to everyone who stayed till the end. We will see each other again tomorrow.